Good morning. So, this has become my new morning coffee spot because it's a nice place. It's in the shade, and I've been getting up a little bit later this past week than usually do. So, it's already hot. It's about 8:30, something like that. I got up, I did my meditation, and I'm out with the dogs now. Yesterday, I also got back a little bit late. I think I got back close to maybe 10:30, 11. We went to the hot springs yesterday with our friend, and we had a lot of fun. And this morning I woke up with like this knowing that I'm going to open up another YouTube channel that is going to be all about the twin flame journey, but clean, without my vlog in it. If whoever doesn't, you know, whoever just wants the information without all of my personal input and story and everything that it's going on with me, I think I'm going to consolidate it and like bring it into pinpoints. Maybe I'll go over this channel that I have here and kind of see highlights of things that I explained and kind of try to maybe even write out the videos before I do them, because when I start talking, I just go all over the place. So maybe it'll be like very, 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 which is really out of character for me. It's something that I would have to really sit down and put time into, but I think that it's worth it. Really, to explain the different aspects of the twin flame journey as I understand them. Sit down and really explain. I think that that could, bringing all that information into one point where each video has its subject and I stick to the subject, would be helpful, because a lot of these videos, like some of the videos that come through when I'm like super channeling and I think it's like the subjects that I touch on are the most important subjects, but the video turns out to be like an hour long. I see that get a lot less views, even though I think that the information that are in them are way more important. And I see how I work on YouTube. If it's really, really long, a lot of times I won't listen unless I'm driving somewhere and then it's something that I really want the information about. So I'll let it go. I'll let it go. But I know nowadays people just don't have the time to sit down and listen to an hour and be, unless there's busy work. When sometimes I put, when I'm doing something, it's either artistic or I'm doing something that is packaging or things like that. I put on a video like a documentary video or something that I'm interested in, and I can really focus on it because I'm only doing like tasks with my hands, so that helps. Um, but I really think that that would do good to sit down and really just make the effort of making short videos that explain very pinpoint. It just came to me this morning that that's something that I want to do and take the time to put into it, and um, and really like make it a very clean channel with the just that. And then I can have this channel as my vlog and whatever, whatever comes and share with. This past week has been so intense. Today I'm going up to Kishuate. I'm going to visit my twins' mother. I'm going with a friend. It's going to be her first time going up to visit her, so it ought to be really fun. I'm going to meet her down here at the gas station at about a quarter to um, 10 to 11, and then we're going to head out. It takes about an hour to get there, so this day is already set and it's going to be a special day. My house has gotten to be kind of a mess. I need to clean my house a little bit this week. I've been kind of running. I feel like there's a lot of things that I got done this week that have been sitting on my list forever, and I feel like really good about. Yesterday I didn't feel like I got a lot done. Um, Yesterday was kind of just like this easy day. I don't even know where a lot of my time went. I did get some things done that I pushed myself at the end of the day. And then after I got home in the evening, I went over to my parents' and I did some painting. So that's good, because the painting is an absolute income. It's my efforts for income. So it's directly connected to my income. That's my, what I was saying yesterday in my videos, that's my income that's directly from Jesus. I was telling my mom about that yesterday. Anything that has to do with religion or Jesus or or Christianity or anything like that makes my mom uneasy because of the way she was raised in like this boggled down kind of culty uh, Christianity, very strict. Her grandfather was the main pastor and one of the founders of a whole Christian movement or a sect or whatever you call it. It's the Church of God's Seventh Day. I think that's what it's called, Church of God's Seventh Day, and where they. But she was like in the hot pot. No, no, she was like she was the granddaughter of, and so she went as far away from it as she could, and even converted to Judaism, which I was raised in Judaism. Actually, when I converted when I was 8, I was raised Jewish. I always thought that I was Jewish. And then at 8, all of a sudden we went and we were converting in Chabad, which is a religious sect of Judaism. And we spent a few years in a very strict community, a Chabad community in California, and I'm grateful for it. But it also kind of pushed me away because I came from total freedom. I was living in Arkansas, running with the rivers, running the mountains with my goats. I grew up, part of my childhood. We went and lived on this cabin on top of this mountain in Arkansas, and grew our own vegetables and our own fruit, and lived. We had goats that we also ate the goats. Yeah, now I'm vegan, but we raised them for food, and chickens and guinea pigs and all sorts of things. And we went and we didn't the running water that we had was from a pond, so the water that we had from the pond we washed dishes with and things like that and bathed. But we bathed in big buckets and tubs outside, or in the winter, like with rags, and and heated water on the stove. And we went and got fresh drinking water from a mountain spring. And that was our job every morning before school or after school. When we got home, we would have to take the jugs and we would have to go, me and my 2 older brothers, that was our job. And before we went to school, we would milk the goats. Get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go out and milk the goats by hand into a bucket. And my mother would make butter from the top that comes, and that's what we grew up on, goat milk. I remember I went to my cousin's house, and they gave me some regular cow milk, and it was so gross to me. I couldn't drink it. It was just like, ugh, because the goat milk is really sweet, and also it didn't have any kind of additives to it. It didn't go through any kind of processing, so it was just completely natural. And the goats just roamed around the house. I remember they had these big blocks of salt that they would lick. And when they needed to be milked, because after when they need to be milked, their tinim, like their boob sack. I don't know what you call it, but it would get big. It would get so full that it would be like bursting. Sometimes they would actually have um, like scabs on their nipples and things from the nursing. Look how cute they are. They're just so cute. Would you? They're so cute. So and we lived up there naked. We would run around in the summer just completely naked, and playing in mud puddles and raising the goats. And if you go onto my Facebook, I think that there are some pictures of us there up at the cabin. We lived in this little cabin, and sometimes you just get snowed in, or sometimes it would just be, you couldn't get up there with the car, and it was about, we would have to walk. We had to walk like a mile or so to catch the school bus. So we had to get up in the morning. We had to milk the goats, get dressed, get ready, and walk a mile to catch the school bus. And then the school bus would drop us off because we lived up on this mountain, right? And so there was this little mountain road that went up there, but it was a dirt road. It was a dirt rock road. You had to have some kind of Jeep to even get up there. And a lot of times you couldn't get up there after the rains and stuff. You'd have to park. We would have to park down at the bottom and walk. It was about a mile walk into the wild forest. But it was the most beautiful. I think that that was one of the times that, that one of the times in my life that most sculpted my being, most made me who I am, because I completely connected to nature. Our water source was from nature. Our food source was from nature. My father's dream was to live off the land, to go and make a homestead and completely live off the land. Thing is, living off the land, you don't have toilet paper, you don't have things like that. But my mother refused. So at some point she said, "No, I want to have toilet paper and toys." And I remember them arguing about that toys are sticks. We get to play with sticks and stones and things like that, which was the funnest. And with the goats, I used to get up in the morning. I started school in kindergarten. That was the first. That was my first grade. Was kindergarten before I went to first grade. And before that, I just stayed home. So one year that we were there, I was just home with my mother. And I would go out, we would check the traps. We had traps. We never caught anything in the traps, but every morning we would go on a round of the traps. And I remember one morning, the closest thing that we ever got to catching with those traps. And you know what? It's probably lucky that we never caught anything in those traps, because I don't know, it probably would have traumatized me. But I remember one time we came across a trap and it was closed. It was snapped closed, and there was a whole bunch of fur and like a little bit of blood around it, and it was kind of shocking, because those traps are nasty. Those traps, they have like and they just grab, and then the animal suffers. So I think that I was very very privileged not to have ever caught anything in those traps. But we raised corn and we raised all sorts of vegetables, and we had persimmon trees. Persimmon trees. I forever after that, I think I just started eating persimmons again in the last, ever since my spiritual awakening. And I have decided to put things into my life, to pull all of my boundaries and go over boundaries. So just lately in these last few years, did I taste a persimmon again? And it's persimmons are pretty good. The persimmons up there on the mountain, though, were the best because they were natural. They were just like so sweet, and they had the very definite taste of persimmons. But for years and years and years, because every time we were hungry in between meals, it's like, go get a persimmon off the tree, go get a persimmon off the tree. So we ate persimmons like all summer long, just persimmons. Ugh. That and melon. I don't know where a melon, but also melon. Melon was one of those things. But nowadays I'm eating a little bit of melon. It's still not my favorite, but if somebody offers me a piece, I don't go out and search it out and buy it. Like I don't persimmons either. But but I will eat it and I will taste it, and I can appreciate it. So, but I really do appreciate that living that life. It was this little cabin, and it was a little living area, kitchen area, and my father built these steps up to the attic, and the attic was my and my brother's room was in the attic, and my parents had a little room downstairs, but it was a tiny little caravan like thing. And it had a little porch, and I remember sitting out. My father plays guitar and he wrote a whole bunch of music, so we would sit out on the porch and he would play guitar. And I remember it would be thundering and lightning and raining, and we would be sitting out on the porch singing and playing music. I loved it. It was I think something that really formed my being and really connected me to nature and allowed for me to be who I am. I think that especially in the years, because I was so young, it was like when I was 4 or 5, and up till we lived in Arkansas from the time I think it was probably about 3.5 years old, maybe when we got to Arkansas, until I was 8. Wait, yeah, until I was 8. When I was 8, and that was all, there was a certain time that we lived up in the forest in that cabin for a couple of years, but then we moved. We always moved. We moved to another couple of houses, and they were always they were always homesteads out in the middle of nowhere, and really connected to nature. And then from there we moved to California, and that's where, when I was 8, that we converted to Judaism and lived like in the big city, Orange County, California. Huntington Beach, well, Westminster. We lived in Westminster, and we went into a Chabad community. So we go straight from living in the forest and living from nature into city living and thrown into like this religious, very, closed way of being. You have to follow all of these laws and separate meat from milk, and and the Sabbath becomes holy, and you can't do anything, and you have to go to shul. Shul is like the church, but it's like the synagogue. Synagogue. That's the word. But you're not allowed to drive on Sabbath, so you have to walk a mile and a half, which isn't, it's like defeating its own purpose, because you're not supposed to work, and you're supposed to rest on the Sabbath day, right? So you're not allowed to work or drive a car or anything like that. So you end up walking for hours and hours and hours. I used to dread having to go to synagogue. I used to dread it. And I think that the way that this is non-judgmental. I'm talking about my own experience. I see the beauty in it as well. I feel privileged to have had that, because it really broadened my knowledge, and to actually experience it from inside. Experience um, what it is to be a devout religious uh, Jew. I understand it. I was in it. I felt it. There's an emotion to it. I was there. I have a deep respect for it. At the same time, I can see it for what it is. It's just like it's out of for me. I non-judgmental. Um, Everybody is different, and everybody it touches them. Okay, so blah blah blah. Okay, I did all of the preaching, and now I'm going to say of acceptance and love and rah, 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 rah. Okay, now that you know that there's no judgment in this, because I appreciate everything that I've gone through, and I've been there. So how can you judge something if you've actually done it and been there? And I see how this life is. Things that I would have said never, never, never. Things that, now I've learned not to say never. Never say never, because this world is so funky, with the Messiah videos I've been doing lately. It's like, if my mother were to see those videos, she even, I'm slowly opening up a little bit of conversation with her. Like I told her, okay, where did this all start? This all started with my mother, because yesterday I went and I was painting plates, and I told her, think about it, Ima. Ima is mother in Hebrew. I said, think about it. Jesus is providing our income right now. He's actually putting food on our table. And she's like, it pushes all of her buttons, and she attributes it to my twin. So she has like this from my twin flame, because he turned me on to, well, he did turn me on to all of this. I have to say, yeah, give credit where credit's due, because he showed me a different. But I got to the conclusions on my own. And the way that my family says I'm being brainwashed or something, but it's absolutely not. I can just see it. I can just see it as plain as day. If anything, he just puts out like some facts, and then I'm like, oh, look at that. And I get all excited about it like a little girl. Like all of a sudden I understand. And yesterday I was thinking, yeah, just like about where we came from, my roots and my great grandfather, and I was thinking, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. My beliefs have become the same, and I was thinking, well, would that mean that I'm Christian? Would that mean that? I don't know. I don't want to put any kind of labels on it, but if I believe in Yeshua and what he was speaking of, absolutely. Absolutely. I see that I've been saying the same thing for years as he's been saying. All he was teaching was righteousness. He was teaching how to get on the right path and stand up and take responsibility in your life, and live a pure life, and cast out the things that are not, because There's the black, there's the dark, there's the evil and the good. There's the dark and there's the light. And sometimes it feels easier to live in the dark because there's greed in the dark, gimme, gimme, gimme. You don't have to, there in the light, there's a faith that you have to have, a blind faith. There's a certain kind of, and sometimes when you can't see something, and it's just like manifesting. It's the exact same thing. When you can't see something and where it's coming from, sometimes it's difficult to trust that it's going to come because we think that we have to make it happen. And the minute that we think that it's only ours and that we have to make it happen, then we turn into, like, first of all, we're living only in the physical plane because we're trying to get, get from the physical plane, when everything that is in creation comes from a higher plane. So when we go into this mode of the dark, which is the Satan energy, which is the 3D energy, which is the what is in this final existence, the physical plane. And it's not a bad thing. It's just what is. It's just another way of looking at what is. So when we disconnect from the higher realms, from the God realms, from the light, from the trust, from the understanding that we are beings of this universe, we are beings of God, and God will provide. God will provide. And however that means, whatever that means, whatever it means, it's exact. If we are in the right place and we're doing our God's work, which, what is God's work? It's nothing really fancy or special. It's not like we have to go out and do anything. It's just to be who we have come here to be. That's all it is to be an expression of God. We are expressions of God. So, and each of us is unique, and each of us is expressing different attributes of God, a different makeup of God, a different combination of all the different attributes of God. And God is everything. It's the dark and the light. So it's all inside of it. And when we are doing our God's work, it just means that we're purifying ourselves and allowing our pure self to come out without all of these habits and addictions and the demons and all of the weaknesses that seep in. The demons are the weaknesses. The weaknesses is where the demons come in, and demons, jinns, whatever you want to call them. It's, and you can look at it as addictions. You could call it whatever you want. You could call it psychological hangups, right? Things that where you're not standing up in your power and your divinity, and you're not taking harness over your talents, because we all come here to express something. We have something to say. We have beliefs. We have our own talents. We have our own expressions that we've come to honor the world with, or to bring forth from the higher realms that are coming through us. And when we're in our weaknesses, we are afraid of how the world, we're thinking that it's us. So we're not realizing that it's God coming through us. And then we're thinking, the ego mind thinks that it's us, that it's our own doing, which it isn't. It's all being done. And when we think it's our own doing, then we think we have to control it. And then we don't know exactly what to do, because it's not ours to control. It's ours to allow it to come through us. So when we, and we can use our minds and our God-given powers and our emotions to channel it through to the right directions, to be able to bring it out into the world. That's what I'm doing with these videos. I feel like it's coming through me. It's not even something that I really have control over. You see, I open up the video, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I start talking about what we did yesterday and where I'm going today. And all of a sudden, all of these, everything is everything is connected to everything, and it brings forth what naturally needs to come out. So through my story comes out the story of God, and it's overwhelming because I was taught out of that. I was taught also, like, not only out of it, but almost like in opposition, complete opposition to Christianity, to God, to like complete turnoff. And then all of a sudden, through the spiritual awakening, it's like coming to it through the back door. And I have all of these understandings and realizations and writings and everything that's coming through me. And then I get to a certain point where I realized that, oh, wait a minute, I'm talking about the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing that Jesus was talking, Yeshua was talking about. All it is righteousness. All it is clear purifying yourself so that you can harness and channel God's light through you. And all God's light is just you being. That's all you have to be. There's no effort in it. The effort is in trying to control it. And then that's where the pain comes, because you're not allowing it to come through you completely and clearly. But there is a lot of work in doing in finding yourself, in understanding what's you and what isn't you, because we have been like molded into society's way of thinking. We've been conditioned to believe certain things. I really feel like I have been really blessed to have moved around a lot. It looks like this is gonna, I need to turn it around. To have moved around a lot in between also belief systems, being raised in the mountains and then being raised in California and then moving to Israel. And then you see that there's so many different ways of being, that there isn't just one way of being. And then it breaks all of that up, because if I was born, and let's say I was born all my life just in Chabad and that's all I learned, I would have it would be so much harder for me to be able to open up my perspective. But having moved every year, even moving in between Montana to Oregon to Arkansas to California to Israel, and we lived in the desert. So when we first got to Israel, we moved to Beersheba, and then we moved to Tzfat, which is up here in the north, and then we moved to Jerusalem, and then we moved to the Judean mountains, and then we moved to the Golan, and then from the Golan we moved to Livnim. And there's a whole bunch of little moves in between. There was a homeless time. There was a time when we lived in a tent for a few months. There was a war going on. There was no work, and we were kind of new to the country here still, and we moved into a tent for a few months, lived in a tent down in the valley. So I've had a lot of life experience that showed me. And then after that, when I got married, I married into a Sephardic, completely different mindset, mentality. My husband's family come from they're Arab Jews. They come from Arab countries like Algeria. His mother's from Algeria, and his father came from Spain, but Spain that bordered Morocco. So they were they spoke Arabic. They spoke Arabic, French. They spoke a whole bunch of languages. Spanish, Hebrew. I think my mother-in-law, who couldn't read or write ever, the only language that she could read and write was French, because from Algeria she went to France until she was 12, and then she came to Israel. So she only knew how to read and write in French. But she spoke 7 languages. And she was uneducated, but she spoke 7 languages and raised 15 kids. My ex-husband is one of 15. So, they were pretty much left to fend for it. Well, it's not, I can't make any kind of judgments on that. Everybody has their own, their own path. And so my ex-husband, his family, and I'm still in touch with my ex-husband's family. Actually, they're really nice people. It's a different mentality. They're really nice people. We've gone through a lot together. I was married for 20 years. I have a sister-in-law that's my age. She's 6 months older than I am, and I go and sit and have coffee with her in Tiberias. She lives in Tiberias. So the way things work out in this life is just unbelievable. The coincidences and the way that things bring you to where you should be. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this video, get back. I need to go get my house straightened up, and then I'm going up to visit my I want to call her my mother-in-law. That's how I feel she is. But I'm going to go visit my twins' mother. So have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.